What's up, Mortgage Coach community? Dave Savage sitting down with Mr. Brent Palmer out of the Pacific Northwest. I've interviewed Brett a number of times. Today, I'm going to interview him about what I'm calling the 2022 halftime show, halftime playbook. Kristen Messerly and I are writing an article that will be released sometime between next week and the 15th of June. And the thought here is, guys, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've never seen a year just like this, and the amount of change that's happened in the past 6 months is unprecedented. Now, some of it is headwinds and is making the business harder. And some of it is positive, and it creates real opportunity to close some loans now and to build and create market share. So, Brett, before I get into my three questions that I'm asking everybody in these interviews, if you could just tell everybody a little bit about your production, because last time I interviewed you, you are a mortgage coach grandmaster who's done over 1,000 total cost analysis. I know you consistently do over 100 million in production, but if you could just share how you did last year and then share a little bit about yourself this year, and then I'll get into those questions.
Yeah, Dave, thanks for having me on. Last year, my team and we were just over 160 million in production. My team and we just came over to Guild in October. And then I kind of have taken on a newer role as of March in a district manager role that is more non-production focused on helping loan officers develop their business. And then my team is definitely still cranking away, and now they have kind of a greater responsibility and a bigger vesting into carrying on that legacy and that production. So it's exciting stuff.
So any new loan officers watching this, it's a guy who knows how to do a lot of production, and for any leaders watching this, this is a guy that's making that transition from fully in the trenches, full-time job managing and building referral partnerships and driving $100 million production. So with that said, Brett, there are some opportunities in this market, and I'm going to ask you at the end of this interview, what do you think the top three opportunities are in the market? But I'm going to start with, there's some data points. There's some key metrics that have changed with how we started the year that lead to those opportunities. So in your mind, what are the three data points and, call it brutal reality that has changed this year and that puts us in the situation we're at right now?
That's a great question. I think that we've become so accustomed to receiving business that a lot of us have forgotten how to go get business, how to go source business. We want to think that we've been doing such an amazing job over the last couple of years, but in reality, we're just catching the ball and throwing it behind us and then waiting for another one to get pitched to us. We weren't really going out and getting business. So, and now with a different rate environment, and then now kind of as inventory levels start to peak, I think that loan officers need to get back to basics, the basic things that drive business. And that's making telephone calls, that's engaging with your databases, whether it's customers or agents. I think it's just getting back to your core principal behaviors and activities, but also being incredibly disciplined about it. You can do something for 6 months and it becomes a habit. And the minute you stop doing it, you have to start all of that momentum over again. And so
I pulled two data points, maybe three data points out of what you said. One, interest rates have gone up. So, and everybody knows rates have gone up over 2% in 2 months, and now here we are 6 months into the year and they're even higher than that. We know we're at historically low inventory. And then, to your point, there's less loans, although historically this still looks like it's not going to be one of the top 2 years in the past decade, but it's going to be one of the top 3 years in the past decade. So there's still relatively good production. Any other data points before we get into trends and opportunities?
I was prepping for this, and when you say historically low inventory, I think it's interesting because things are starting to shift, and they're shifting incredibly rapid. So like in the Portland Metro, Vancouver area, they're in the last 2 weeks, from the 19th through the 31st, there was over 1,900 new listings.
Wow.
Compared to the previous 2 weeks before that, there was less than 800. So we've doubled the inventory. The other thing that I thought was an incredible statistic is in that same time frame, 19th through the 31st, there was 712 price reductions. So 712 agents had their sellers lower their prices. And so you have an increasing inventory, and then now you have sellers that are like, oh, maybe I waited a little too long to capitalize on this. So I think that creates opportunity. I think it goes, and you're able to go get a different segment of agents, whether, a lot of people target those buyers agents because those are where the leads are. Well, now the market shifted to these listing agents. How do you go get a listing agent's business?
Cool. So by the way, I think that's plenty of meat on the bones and a perspective that will put into the article that Kristen Messerly and I will be releasing by June 15th. And I would love anyone watching this, look up those metrics. How does inventory compare, June 1st versus May 1st? And what has been the increase in inventory in your market? And then also price reductions. When you look at, where we're at here at June 1st, what did it look like 30 days before? The month of May, how many price reductions? Month of April, how many price reductions? First of all, if you're an originator working with agents, you should know your market. You should know those numbers. Put them in comments if you do know them. And if you don't know them, go find out what they are and come back and put them in comments. I want to learn. Okay, so now let's just talk about trends. And, could be long-term trends that are creating opportunities in the market, could be new trends. Obviously, the one you just said, a new trend is more inventory and more price reductions. But what are some other trends that create opportunities for mortgage originators, in your opinion?
I think right now, finding out, having a good servicing released ARM or a good ARM alternative. We know that with the yield curve where it is, the Fannie and Freddie ARMs aren't really sustainable to a lot of lenders. There's not a huge difference. So, one thing that we did is we got a few different investors that are offering fairly priced 7 and 10-year ARMs. And I think that in some cases, depending on your price range, that can either create, anywhere from $150 to $200 a month in savings, or get that buyer back up to where the price point they were, 3 months ago, when interest rates were, a point or a point and a half lower. So I think that, using ARMs, I think is great. I think educating the consumer to what ARMs are is also incredibly important. I think that there's a huge misperception on the reality of how they can be used strategically for your advantage.
Okay, so ARMs is a trend. Let's get one more trend out of you.
I think also setting up, there's a lot of buzz in that interest rates are going to bounce off the ceiling and come back down. So you still have a lot of lenders out there that are kind of afraid of payoff, short payoff, or portfolio runoff. Well, I think that you can educate your consumer to what this might look like and give them a strategic structure that sets them up to refinance down the road. If this happens, let's find a median in between where we can structure your loan that makes sense for you now, but also gives you opportunity down the line. So whether that's using discount points or closing costs or interest rate, it's setting up for a future business. It's also setting up for, another loan.
So now let's switch to opportunities. And I don't want to lead you at this because I want to know what you think the best opportunities are. But I do know, like, I interviewed Jeremy Force yesterday, and he showed a TCA, and he started showing me these a week ago or 2 weeks ago, where he'd show, program A is this, program B is this market. And he's starting to future cast. And hey, and this is where rates might be sometime in the next 3 years, and I think the scenario he was showing me yesterday had to do with a client that was thinking about doing a HELOC. And he was trying to get them to hey, you could do a HELOC, but you could also do a cash out refi, because you're going to get this rate now, but They're going to go
Yeah.
down at some point. And then I've seen that with a move up. He had a client, it was actually a move down analysis that wanted to right size their home. And one of his options was future casting it. So I've also seen a lot of seller buy downs, where, permanent buy downs. But what are some of the biggest opportunities for a super savvy, modern mortgage professional to gain market share and to get loans now? What are some of I want to know your three best opportunities.
Yeah, one of the things I was working on this morning actually is that seller buy down. I think that targeting listing agents and targeting agents and using that TCA model where you can use the link and show them. So as we're kind of doing the data and finding out where these price reductions are, on average, at least within the Portland metro area, your average price reductions anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000, right? So how do we show the agent, that listing agent, how they don't necessarily need to reduce their price, i.e. reduce their commission, and attract more buyers into that segment? And we're using permanent rate buy downs for that, and specifically targeting them with generalized, scenarios that we're building out to show them what that could mean. And now they can market, a specific opportunity that is more attractive to that buyer. As inventory increases, now you're trying to have something that is more appealing to a greater group.
So if you could show us, do you have a TCA you could show us right now? Because there's no doubt, I've already done a few of these interviews, and there's no doubt if you're a modern mortgage professional and you have Mortgage Coach, your ability to educate and articulate how a seller buy down can be used to either avoid a price reduction or help a buyer who qualified 2 months ago but doesn't qualify today, or a house that may not be ready for a price reduction, but you just want to make it more attractive in this higher rate market. This seller buy down is pure gold. So are you in a position to share your screen and show one? Go ahead and share your screen.
So this is one I worked on this morning. Agent had a $600,000 list price, and they were contemplating a $20,000 reduction. So I put together the original listing to kind of create a baseline. This shows them, just apples to apples, no discount points, kind of, where that would potentially set that buyer. Then showing them what that does on a $20,000 price reduction. Now it only saves them $90.85. So it's not a huge number whatsoever. And you look over at the short-term 60-month savings, it's only $4,300 that it actually saves any potential buyer with a loan of 20% down, versus showing them the seller buy down. This gets them a rate that's 1.25 lower, using that $20,000 to buy that rate permanently down. Then now this saves them $364 a month, $30,000 almost in short-term savings. But then you look at the interest long-term, if they were to keep that loan, it's a pretty substantial number. You're getting close to that $100,000, that $100,000 mark off of the baseline. So it's a huge win for that potential buyer to market to that program.
So Mortgage Coach community, we train on this every week. This strategy is taught at our 11 o'clock Pacific time strategy training that we do every week live by Suzanne, our director of e-learning. We also teach it on our Thursday calls. And then I'll be creating lots of content in our YouTube channel and our Facebook group around this. So tune in. So would you mind sharing this TCA so I can put it in a link? Like if you're watching this on YouTube, I can put a link down below.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you want me to email that to you, or just?
Yeah, just email it to me. And then go ahead and stop sharing your screen. Want to try to get at least one more opportunity. What's another opportunity that, given this data, given these trends, if you're a mortgage professional that wants loans now and you want to get market share in this market, one more opportunity?
So another TCA?
I don't know, whatever. It could be another TCA. It could be, like right now, a couple of the conclusions that have come out in these interviews is that this is a time to build your database. You know, like if you've got a fintech powered CRM as a mortgage professional that, you know, is using borrower intelligence like Sales Boomerang, so you're getting alerts, and you have digital presentations like Mortgage Coach, and you have tools like HomeBot, that you could get realtors to give you their database. And so, you know, this is a market to build your database. And it's also a market that, you know, if you're doing everything I just described, your database, you're a fintech powered loan officer, and realtors would be in their best interest to give their database to you so that you can pull more transactions out of it.
I think that that's key, you know, and I think that like, just like you said, HomeBot, I think what you guys are creating with Sales Boomerang is going to be incredibly helpful. And I feel like you use that to go back to old school. Like we talked about at the beginning, it's being back to basics. So when you set somebody up on HomeBot, or you set a realtor up on HomeBot, and you get those notifications that Dave's exploring new markets, or Dave looked at the equity in his house, pick up the phone and make a call, make a connection with your database and reconnect with them. Because as much as you try to market them through text and through email and through drip, nothing is going to be as impactful as picking up the telephone, making a connection, asking a question. We do the same thing with the TCAs. There's a beauty in the fact that we get notified when a TCA is viewed, because then it creates an opportunity for me to call Dave and say, hey, Dave, I saw that you hopped into that total cost analysis. Is there anything that you want me to make adjustments to, or is there anything that you had questions about? And that's a phone call. That's another connection, another touch point that isn't necessarily always there.
So let's wrap. Dude, first of all, this has been awesome. You know, I think any mortgage executive would get value from what you shared. I think any leader of loan officers, I think any loan officer, you know, got takeaways, got ideas. You definitely gave Kristen and I some quotes and some ideas to, you know, help us write a better article. I do want to do, you know, because it's been so long since I've interviewed you on, you know, let's just call it the best ways of using Mortgage Coach to crush it in this market. So let's do that another day this week or next week.
Yeah.
And guys, if anyone watching this got value from this, give it a like, share it with your mortgage friends. If you do not subscribe to the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, you're missing out on the best content to help you gain market share and get loans in today's market. And anyways, I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to our next interview together.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Take care.